And we're back with part two. So let's get into it. Phone's still giving me problems. Ah boy. Nowadays, Carrie was a little shadow to follow where I led, and mimic what I did, and imitate the way she thought I felt. Just as Chris had a small mimicking shadow too in Corey. If there were ever four siblings closer than we were, they would have to have been Siamese quadruplets. Quadruplets. Aren't you going to answer me? Asked Chris. Why are you looking so sad? The trees look beautiful, don't they? When summer. I like summer best. Yet, when fall comes, I like fall best. And when winter comes, then that's my favorite season. And then comes spring, and I think spring is the best. Yes, that was my Christopher Dunn. He could make do with what? Sorry, he could make do with the here and now, and always think it best, no matter what the circumstances. I was thinking back to old Mrs. Bertram and her boring talk of the Boston. Sorry, I was thinking back to old Mrs. Bertram and her boring talk of the Boston Tea Party. She made history seem so dull and the people so unreal. Yet, I'd like to be bored like that again. Yeah, he agreed. I know what you mean. I thought school was a bore too, and history a dull subject, particularly American history. All but the Indians and the Old West. But at least when we were in school, we were doing what other kids our ages did. Now we're just wasting time, doing nothing. Kathy, let's not waste 1 minute. Let's prepare ourselves for the day we get out. If you don't set your goals firmly in mind and strive always to reach them, then you never do. What a wise young man, eh? I'll convince myself if I can't be a doctor, then I won't want to be anything else, or want anything more than money can buy. He said that so intensely. I wanted to be a prima ballerina, though I would settle for something else. Chris scowled as if he was reading my mind. He turned his summer blue eyes on me and scolded because I hadn't practiced my ballet exercises once since I'd come upstairs to exist. Kathy, tomorrow I'm attaching a barre in the portion of the attic. We've finished decorating, and 5 or 6 hours each day you're going to practice, just like in ballet class. I am not. Nobody's going to tell me I have to do anything. Besides, you can't do ballet positions unless you are properly dressed for it. What a stupid thing to say. That's because I am stupid. You, Christopher, have all the brains. With that, I burst into tears and fled from the attic, racing past all the paper flora and fauna. Run, run, run for the stairs. Fly, fly, fly down the steep and narrow wooden steps, daring fate to make you fall. Break a leg and a neck, put you in a coffin dead, make everybody sorry then, make them cry for the dancer I should have been. Yes, that's how she's feeling. Feeling pitiful for herself at the moment. I threw myself down on my bed and I sobbed into the pillow. There was nothing there. There was nothing here but dreams, hopes, nothing real. I'd grow old, ugly, never see lots of people again. That old man downstairs could live to be 110. All those doctors would keep him living forever, and I would miss out on Halloween. No trick-or-treating, no parties, no candies. Oh, I felt sorry for myself, and I vowed somebody was going to pay for all of this. Somebody was going to pay. Wearing their dirty little sneakers, they came to me, my two brothers, my small sister, and each sought to give me comfort with small gifts of cherished possessions. Carrie's red and purple crayons, oh gosh. Corey's Peter Rabbit storybook. But Chris, he just sat and looked at me. I never felt so small. One evening quite late, Mommy came in with a large box that she put in my hands to open. There amidst sheets of white tissue were ballet costumes, were ballet costumes, one a bright pink, the other azure blue, with leotards and toe shoes to match the tulle tutus. From Christopher was written on the enclosed, oh gosh, so her brother sent it for her. So it said, from Christopher, was written on the enclosed small card, and there were records of ballet music. I started to cry as I flung my arms around my mother and then around my brother. This time, they weren't tears of frustration or despair. Now I had something to work towards. Isn't that sweet, folks? I almost make me want to cry too. I'm so happy for her in a sense. I wanted most of all to buy you a white costume, said Mommy, still hugging me. They had a beauty in a size too large to fit you, and with it comes a tight cap of white feathers and curl over your ears for Swan Lake. And I ordered it for you, Kathy. 3 costumes should be enough to give you inspiration, shouldn't they? Oh yes, Mommy. When Chris had Barry nailed securely to an attic wall, I practiced for hours on end while the music played. There wasn't a large mirror behind the Barry like there had been in the classes I had attended, but there was a huge mirror in my mind, and I saw myself performing before 10,000 enraptured people, and encore after encore I took, bowing and accepting dozens of bouquets, everyone red roses. In time, Mommy brought me sometimes some of the pages have been eaten out, so sometimes you can't figure out the words. Oh goodness. In time, Mommy brought me every one of the ballads to play on the record player, which had been hooked up to a dozen extension cords, which went down the stairs and plunged into a socket in our bedroom. Dancing to beautiful music took me out. Dancing to beautiful music took me out of myself and made me forget momentarily that life was passing us by. What did it matter when I was dancing? Better, when I was dancing and pretended I had a partner to support me when I did the most difficult positions. I'd fall, get up, then dance on again until I was out of breath and ached in every muscle, and my leotards were glued to me with sweat, and my hair was wet. I'd fall down flat on the floor to rest and pant, then up again at the barre to do more. Sometimes I would be the princess, Aurora in the Sleeping Beauty, and sometimes I'd dance the part of the prince as well and leap high into the air and beat my feet together. Once I looked up from my concluding dying swan spasm, and I saw Chris standing in the attic shadows, watching with the oddest expression on his face. Soon he'd be having a birthday, his 15th. How had it come about that already he seemed a man and not a boy? Was it only that vague look in his eyes that said he was moving quickly from childhood? On full point, I performed a sequence of those very small, even steps, which are supposed to give the impression the dancer is gliding across the stage and creating what is poetically called a string of pearls. In such a way, I flittered, glided over to Chris and held out my arms. Come, Chris, be my partner. Let me teach you the way. He smiled, seeming bemused, but he shook his head and said that was impossible. Ballet dancing is not for me, but I'd like to learn to waltz if the music is truss. He made me laugh at that. He made me laugh. At that time, the only waltz music we had, except ballet, was old Strauss records. I hurried over to the record player to take off the Swan Lake records and put that on. Chris was clumsy. He held me awkwardly as if embarrassed. He stepped on my pink point shoes, but it was touching how hard he tried to get simple steps right. And I couldn't tell him all his talents must reside in his brain and in the skill of his artistic hands, for certainly none of it drifted down to his legs and his feet. Oh my goodness. And yet, there was something sweet and endearing about the music, easy to do and romantic, and so unlike those athletic ballet waltz that you put in a sweat and left you panting for breath. When Mommy finally came through the door with that smashing white outfit for dancing Swan Lake, a beautifully feathered brief bodice, tight cap, white slippers, and white leotards, so the sheer pink of my skin showed through, I gasped. Oh, it seemed that love, hope, and happiness could be brought upstairs in one single giant-sized, slippery satin white box with a violet ribbon, and given to me by someone who really cared, when another who really cared put this idea in her head. Isn't that beautiful? Wow. Eventually, Chris could do the waltz and the foxtrot. When I tried to teach him Charleston, he refused. I don't need to learn every kind of dance like you do. I'm not going to be on stage. All I want to do is learn how to get out on the dance floor with a girl in my arms and not make a jackass of myself. So we'll pause right there, folks. It seems to be getting interesting. So Chris seems to start now having feelings for Kathy, which is not good. But you see, they're locked up in the attic. You know, so you can't really blame them in a sense, because they're teenagers, their bodies are changing, so are their thoughts. So let's see what happens though. Alright, so we'll leave it there for now, and we'll be back in short order, folks. Hope you enjoyed that. So enjoy the rest of your Good Friday. Don't eat too much bun and cheese. Watch out for the sugar. Too much of the sugar not good. I used to bake a long time ago, you know. I used to bake buns, but don't have the time these days. You know, the buns, most of the buns that they're making these days are not that nice. You know, I think, in my opinion, I think they need to let it stay in the oven and bake a little longer. Sometimes you realize some of them have this rawness in the middle and too gummy. I don't like when the bun is gummy and wet. I like a dry, I don't mean dry, but I like a dry, normal, tasty bun. To each his own. To each his own. Alright, folks, have a happy Easter holiday, those who celebrate it and those who don't. Take care of yourselves, and we'll be back in short order. Oh, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And tell your friends about it. And I'm still waiting on those comments. Alright, peace out. Bye, folks.